Welcome to Baking with Chickens. Today, I'm gonna show you how to make my award-winning Seville Orange Marmalade Pie. This pie recently won the KCRW Pie Pageant for Prettiest Pie from Evan Kleinman. Huge! This is epic! Go to bakingwithchickens.com, get this recipe. I'm gonna show you step by step how to make this. I promise you, it's gonna be amazing. It looks great, it tastes good, it's got both. Bok bok bake. Following along, get your ingredients together. I've made my salty cardamom crust ahead of time. I love my perfect pie recipe. Grab it in the video. This is my favorite go-to pie recipe of all time. It's so versatile. It works for any kind of pie. You want to do a pre-baked pie crust. See, it's already made to pour in a curd for this. Let's make the curd to fill this baby. We're gonna use some orange zest and some lemons. So I am zesting this right now because we want to get all of that beautiful orange flavor into the pie. So I'm using these sour oranges or bitter oranges from my tree. They're called Seville oranges, and it's a very specific type of orange. It's very, very sour, like more sour than lemons, but they make the most heavenly marmalade that you've ever tasted. And that was really my inspiration for this pie. So if you don't have any sour oranges, you can pack it with a mix of lemons and oranges. Any citruses to make a curd totally work. So if you're still zesting your oranges, hit pause. I'm gonna use this orange juice to make the curd. Curd is basically just all of these ingredients mixed with eggs. So I have my sugar here, I'm gonna add into my saucepan. I've got cornstarch. The cornstarch helps to bind all of it together and make that really nice texture that we're looking for. And salt. And then grab your whisk it together. When you're whisking, you wanna make sure you're kind of getting into the corners of the pan so that things aren't getting left behind. And then the next step is to add the eggs. This recipe uses 6 large eggs, a little olgaberry egg, raspberry egg, and a butterberry egg. Thank you, chickens, for the beautiful eggs. The recipe says 4 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs. So I have to crack into 2 whole eggs and then separate them. So the reason why I don't refrigerate my eggs is because I'm using fresh chicken eggs. They have a natural bloom layer on them that is antibacterial, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. If you're buying your eggs from the grocery store, they do need to be refrigerated because they've already been washed and pasteurized, and that protective bloom layer that is naturally on the chicken's eggs is no longer there. I like using the eggshell method when I'm separating my eggs, or use your fingers. That's a trick that I learned from chefs. They always use their hands and their fingers so that the shell doesn't accidentally poke the yolks. So I've separated my eggs and the whites. If you haven't caught up yet, just push pause, come back. I'm gonna set aside my egg whites to make the meringue later, and then whisk in these egg yolks. So see how like it's getting stuck on the sides of the pan? So this is where like you wanna make sure you're getting your whisk all the way in on the sides. So after your egg yolks are incorporated, I'm gonna pour in my orange juice and the zest. So you're gonna put this on the stove, turn on your heat. My 8-minute timer is up. This is looking really good. See, it's like thick, it's bubbly, it's gloopy. Turn the heat down to medium-low to let it continue to simmer. We're gonna whisk it for 3 more minutes. Right, so this has been cooking. It's got a nice consistency. I'm gonna take it off the stove and over here to cool for 5 minutes. Keep stirring the whole time though. So while it's cooling for 5 minutes, you can probably chill off on whisking it as much because it's not on heat anymore. It's not gonna scramble. Here's where we're gonna add the butter. You're gonna add really cold butter and it's gonna help this cool down. Whisk it in, and it'll start to melt in here. You're looking at this pie, you think it's perfect, but really, like, I made so many mistakes along the way, and it's still a winning pie. The mistakes are just as beautiful as the perfection. I mean, if you look at that photo, I've got fissures and cracks, and my pie crust had slumped. It's all right. It's all good. We're just baking. It's okay. If you messed up this curd, start again. Look at that beautiful filling. It's so nice. It's so curdy. It's nice and thick. The next step is I need to pour this into my pie shell and then let the whole thing cool. Well, make sure your pie shell is totally cool before pouring this in. You don't want it hot. I'm adding an extra flair to this pie, which is the marmalade layer. So I want to pour just enough filling, not quite to the top, but give myself enough room so that my marmalade doesn't fall and spread all over the edges, okay? You don't need to spread it. It'll kind of spread on its own. I can tap it a couple times. I'm gonna let this cool, chill it, I mean, at least 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours to overnight. For the next step, after you chill this completely, where I'm going to pour the Seville Orange marmalade layer on top of this. So it's really important that your curd chills all the way and slowly. Otherwise, it's gonna crack and get fissures when the heat is trying to escape through the marmalade layer. Push pause, enjoy some chickens while this chills, and we'll be back. While the pie is chilling in the fridge, let's make some meringue. We're gonna use those 4 extra egg whites, combine them with the sugar, and salt and cream of tartar. Cream of tartar helps your peaks stay stiff. If you don't have any, some lemon juice or vinegar is a good substitute. So now that these are mixed in the bowl, we need to incorporate the sugar, and I'm gonna melt them over my pot over on the stove. I'm gonna put my mixer over a pot of boiling water, and then I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna use the whisk that I'm gonna use for the KitchenAid. We're gonna whisk the sugar and the egg whites together. So this is a Swiss style meringue. I am melting the sugar into the egg whites so that it's nice and smooth and we don't have any grainy, sugary bits. And you just whisk it as long as the sugar isn't grainy. So you just kind of feel a little bit, and if you could feel the grain, then keep going for a little bit longer. That's pretty good, and I'm calling done and taking it back to my KitchenAid. So my sugar is nicely melted in. I'm gonna put this back into the KitchenAid. So I take the time to do this Swiss meringue because I really like the texture a lot more. It gives you that nice, soft, toasty marshmallow texture instead of that like weird powdered sugar taste. Totally worth it, in my opinion. Right, this is looking so good. So I whipped meringue into stiff peaks. Check it out. Nice stiff peaks here. So that when I pipe it, it's gonna stay up and stand nicely. If you overbeat your meringue, you can fix it. Just add in a new egg white and then it'll fall, and then just re-whip it, and that should work. I didn't put any flavoring in this. You could add vanilla or anything you like, but I just left it simple. Egg whites, sugar, salt, cream of tartar. So here is this beautiful whippy meringue. I'm gonna fill my piping bag with this, because we're gonna pipe the pie a little bit later. Any piping bag will do. If you don't have one, you can fill like a Ziploc bag and just cut off the end. You don't have to get fancy like I do. You can just kind of take the whole cloud and just throw it on top of the pie. But since this pie won the prettiest pie in the KCRW pie contest with what Evan Kleiman calls imaginary use of meringue, I'm gonna show you how to pipe that meringue. Check it out. Look how pretty it is. I love this beautiful orange, yellow, golden color. So pretty, and this pie has been chilling for about 4 hours. I think overnight's better so that you don't get any of those fissures that I was talking about. Now it's time to pour on your marmalade layer. So I made this Seville Orange Marmalade using David Leibovitz's recipe. If you don't have any Seville oranges, you can just go out to the store and buy your own jar. But if you're fortunate to be able to find some sour bitter oranges, you can make your own recipe. I made mine a little bit more runny than I normally would if I was making marmalade because I wanted it to be pourable. So pour slowly. You don't want to have too much marmalade and have it overflow on the side of your pie. So just like take your pie, kind of like, you know, like tilt it, let it run to the edge, run it back. This is just a thin layer. Marmalade is really super sugary, super sweet flavor. So this is just a hint of it, a nice thin layer. I don't want to overwhelm the flavor of the pie. And so when I make my marmalade, I like to make mine with thin cut instead of a thick cut rind. So you see how beautiful and thin these are? Because my marmalade was already at a refrigerator temp, I am going to start piping the meringue immediately. I used kind of like a crescent moon shape. I just have my piping bag, these different tips that we're going to use just for some variety to make it pretty, but you don't have to. You can just pile it on, or you can just use one style of tip. So I'm actually making this pie for Evan Kleiman, who is the host of KCRW Good Food, and she was the judge of the KCRW pie contest. So she loved this pie so much, and she said she wanted to taste it, and I'm going to drop it off at her house later tomorrow. So this has to be perfect. So once I've kind of got like a nice layer that I want, I'm gonna switch the tips to achieve that like whimsical meringue look. So I don't really know what number these are in Wilton because I don't have Wilton ones. I have cheapy ones I bought on Amazon. But whatever this one looks like that has the cute little spikies. All right. And then I'm gonna switch to a third design. I think it's a star tip. There you go. All right, so the best part, pull out your culinary torch. If you don't have one, you can buy these on Amazon. Grab my Amazon link in the description below so that you can order this. Or if you don't have one, you can also throw it into your oven on broil mode. It won't look as nice as a torch. Or you can just eat this without it. This is delicious on its own. It's just really fun to torch it. Ready for the torching? 1, 2, 3. Fire! There you go. And then if you want to get really fancy, so I have these dehydrated oranges that I made in a food dehydrator. Go like this, check it out, ta-da! Thank you so much for making my Seville Orange Marmalade Pie with me. I hope you had fun, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. This is Baking with Chickens. I'm Christina. This is all about the show of conquering your fear of baking. Please follow me on Instagram at Baking with Chickens. Hit subscribe here on YouTube and tell a friend. Until next time, bok bok bake. I know.
You just take that back.
I'm Christina, and what did I say? I'm Christina.
Thank you. Thank you.